All right, so what you're about to see is a little, should we call it experimental, a bit different. The reason I have false dichotomy up there, that is to say that things are either black and white, A or B, red or blue, is because we are doing that here. We are, should we say, overplaying some things for effect. But that makes it a bit more fun. What do I mean by that? Give it a second.
Presenting Kate Pearce and Chloe Ashford from Trade Me at AppSec New Zealand 2021. In their red versus blue, which grass is greener? Let's get ready to rumble! Woo! Applause, thank you.
In the red corner, we have hacker extraordinaire, making security excellence sound easy.
It is.
She'll expect nothing less than perfection while owning your shit until she runs out of billable hours. And you know she will make you, she will let you know how incompetent you are. Here to press run on vuln scans, deviate from scope, kick puppies and look good doing it, Kate Pearce.
Oh, that coming from you, Miss Ashford. You who is the canary guarding the coal mine. You who is the box ticker extraordinaire. You who make up boxes where they didn't previously exist and no one can find it on the standard even. You are the scope superintendent. Oh yeah, but you're famous for your auditor's dozen, where you can run a dozen audits at a time. Oh, so what? That doesn't make them more secure, because you're so blue, you need to stop holding your breath. Anyway, this is the Trade Me security team. Hello. I'm Kate Pearce. I am head of security at Trade Me, and this is Chloe. I will be taking the red side in this disagreement. I'm in the red corner.
I will take the blue.
I will be the away team.
The home team.
I'm outside the walls looking in.
Inside.
I'm the attacker.
The defender.
I am the one that is rattling the doors while she is shaking in her bit.
I've been closing the curtains, keeping the creeper outside.
See, I've already got into your slides. I will argue for the heck of you.
And I'll argue for the defense.
So, in this discussion of red versus blue, we are going to a few different topical matches, shall we call them. First up, we have motivation.
Who's living in the bubble?
Communication.
How do you get things done?
Technology.
Waiting for the slide to pop up, which technical challenges are better?
And of course, dealing with ourselves.
Yeah. Which side of the fence is better? Well, is it easy to jump over the fence? I guess it depends how flexible you are, right, Kate?
You would know. Going into motivation, going into sort of what is the difference between the two sort of sides and what keeps them going. So, on the outside, our red team, we are right in theory. We are always right in theory, but often wrong in practice. We give you good advice at all costs, for our independence is sacred. We are standards aligned, and we are not ashamed to admit it, whether that is ISO 27001, ISO 27002, whether that is the NZ-ISM or SABSA, whether that is ISO 15408, 62443, NERC, NIST, another NIST, NIST 812, NIST 814, 826, 837, 853, revision 4, 82, 63. What else have we got? CIS Top 10, Cert Critical Controls, ISO 12757. Oh yeah, that one for pen testers.
Okay.
Look it up if you don't know it. ISO 12757, 12757. And while you're at it, look up 14145. Seriously? If you're a pen tester, look it up. We are motivated by many things, but we are always right in theory, because the other consultants agree.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone make hacking sound so boring.
You would say that.
Okay, sure. You're right in theory. Maybe I'm wrong in theory, but I'm right in practice, trust me. I don't need to work by the book or follow the letter of the law, because actually perfection is often secure enough. You might be the expert in security, but you're not the expert in my business. You just simply don't have the context. And while you're talking about, oh, you could do this, you could do that, you should do this, I'm the one that's making things happen. I get to make decisions, and I get to work with my teams to find the best solutions for the problems.
You clearly didn't see last year's report. Yeah. So to give you an example of this sort of disagreement of motivation, I have encountered a pen tester who got a root shell in a honey pot and insisted it be fixed. It is remote code execution. It is a critical. I can't change that. It's a critical. And wouldn't budge on it. Now, without that business context, that's a terrible piece of advice that might technically be correct. But it's very easy to give something that is not quite that transparently bad when you're on the red side.
So, how do we get things done, Kate?
Well, it's all about communication. So I make sure that what I say is correct. I am incredibly precise in what I say. I use special words. They are custom crafted to get the exact meaning that you need, or rather that I need to have said, so that you can't get me later. I use lots of spreadsheets, lots of them, so many. And I expect you to understand them too. I also use lots of buzzwords: exploit, vulnerability, breached, mitigate, remediate, which isn't a word, by the way. Threat, CVSS, CVE, CWP, SQLI, OWASP, CSRF, XSS. And that's what happens with my reports. I tell you. I'm communicating well, am I not?
Well, it's all well and good that you spend all of your time writing into reports, but no one's going to read them, are they?
Oh.
Maybe. So instead of choosing my words to be precise, I choose my words to get the things that I need done to get my specific outcome. I translate your boring report into actions. It's all well and good to have a to-do list for your technical teams, but they need to know the why, and you haven't written that. Well.
I just told you to patch it.
And I don't think you understand, Kate, how much social capital it takes to make a difference in a business.
What's social capital?
There's only so much of my compliance hammer that I can use. And then people just don't start standing back up afterwards. To give you an example, if you've talked to me in the past year and asked me how work is, you've probably heard all about my excitement around PCI. So we come around to audit time, and halfway through the audit, we've got our auditors coming to us. Here, thump, is your list of to-dos, and it's all in PCI DSS speak. Thou shalt do this, thou shalt, And there's no point in giving that to your technical teams. Either they won't read it.
I mean, CDE is a cryptocurrency, right? No?
They're not going to read it, or they're not going to understand it. They'll misinterpret it, and they won't actually meet the requirements that they need to meet. So my job is to translate so to make sure that they understand the intent of those controls, why would they do those things, what they actually need to do, and obviously that's in collaboration with them, what's the best outcome or best approach for them, and then what do they need to show, what do they need to demonstrate to the auditors to get them through.
Okay, so we've talked how we're not aligned on motivation and how we talk in a completely different language. But normally we're trying to get a technical outcome done, so surely there's some agreement there, right? I mean, reverse engineering is just engineering backwards, isn't it? No? I mean, it's the same process, isn't it? I mean, I start and I improve your security by proving your vulnerability with an exploit. Clearly, that shows it's broken. I tell you what looks bad so you can fix it. Like, Chloe, get a haircut. And I give you some remediation options. Oh, while you're at it, you may want to get some grey touched up. Because what I'm worried about is risk aversion. I don't want to miss something that that you can throw at me later. So I tell you everything. My job is to cry, maybe, wolf, possible, fire, and perhaps even unlikely exploit, iceberg. But, I mean, technology's easy, right? Isn't it?
Well, you're engineering backwards. What I'm trying to do is build it good enough. I get to decide what's worth fixing. I get to decide what I care about. I don't care what you care about, sometimes. I get to decide if it matters for the business, and I get to work out which fixes are actually achievable. Like I said earlier, you might not have the business context, but I do. I've seen it. I've seen the worst. One sentence.
I've broken into so many companies, man.
Your one sentence recommendation might be a year long of work.
It's only 10 people.
And if I actually want to make sure that what we're doing is in line with the business, then we need to make sure that we understand the business risk and their risk appetite.
Well, I mean, let me give you an example from my consulting days. Had a server where we were notified by an external party that a private key was compromised. Oh dear. Immediately jump into full-on incident response mode because server's clearly compromised. So we have 10 people digging at a system for 4 hours, and then we finally find out what happened. When they had issued the certificate several months ago, a person had accidentally pasted the private key instead of the certificate signing request, and people know that happens, and hit submit, and like, oh, that didn't work. So they put in the proper thing, hit submit, and it worked. 6 months later, the certificate authority was looking through the logs and was like, oh, that's a private key, it's breach, compromise, revocation, with 12 hours notice. But didn't tell the customer why it was revoked for 6 hours. Technical details matter. Company context matters, and it's really easy to give the nugget of truth that you think is important, like your private key is compromised, without the important thing, by us. Really, those details matter. But we're not here just to sort of ramble about the technology and all of that. We're also here to talk about the things we have learned ourselves moving from consulting into the companies, moving from the outside in, jumping that fence, so to speak.
So we're talking about the important things, us.
I can keep talking about you if you want to.
No, you go.
Okay. So, yes, it turns out, and some of you will know this, it's really easy to be on one side of the fence and to think, I can jump that, it's only 3 foot high. Many a drunk person has also thought that. As has the concrete, as their face hits it. It's really difficult. You have to know your biases. You have to adapt for them. Those are the things you think are important, the things you think are not important. What drives you? What drives your customers? Really hard to actually be introspective and to reflect on yourself, to grow.
Well, it's scary being introspective because it's, what are you going to find in there? It's horrifying. And then for me, it's about priorities. It's very easy, especially when you've been on the red team, to find out everything that is wrong, right? But there's always going to be imperfections. And you've got to realize that you need to prioritize the things that are important. There are finite resources. There's only so much time. There's only so many actual people to do the work. There's only so much buy-in from the exec that you'll get until they see that you're actually not doing a good job.
There's only so much fear you can utilize before it runs out.
Yeah. And the other thing is, we all have biases, and part of that bias are your oversights. You need to understand that there are things that you don't look for. And maybe for your business, they're the important things.
Yeah. I'll give one of the examples I give from not long after I started at TradeMe that I found the most confronting, coming from a pen test background. I had a customer inside TradeMe who was wanting to release something with a minor security vulnerability. And I was asked to do a risk assessment. Cool, we do that all the time. And then to provide advice to the business on should they go or no go. I did not know how much money that made. I did not know what place it was in the business. So I sat down with them and I wrote a business case, the conclusion of which was you should ignore Kate. because it was good business and it was good risk management and responsible security. To say you should go against my security advice because it is bad risk management was a very confronting moment for me. But it was the right choice. So, we sum up one of the questions, the one we posed at the start about which grass is greener. Well, I mean, which grass is greener? The other one.
The other one, yeah.
It's always easy to look at the other side and think, oh, they just need to patch their things. That's easy. Password management? We know how to do that. And it's not ever that easy because it's not really grass. It's not that the grass is greener, it's that everything's concrete. Because it's not an A or B comparison. We're all living in our own world, doing what we need to do. But again, that's not useful advice to you. That's just rhetoric. What if we go into something a bit more specific about what's a summary? What's this rant about? This rant is really to say that some simple things are not actually simple.
Yep, easy problems in one part of security are actually impossible in another. Your one sentence is actually 1 year, and at the end of the day, is that actually what you should be spending your year on? You can just say, just patch, just MFA, just implement MFA. It's simple, but it's not really.
MFA, you've got 10,000 users, 1% of them can't get it to work. As of 3 p.m. tomorrow, how many help desk tickets are you getting? What if it's 100,000 users? What if it's 1 million? What if it's 5 million? Suddenly that simple advice has ruined the next 6 months for a part of the company you may not even think about. And the second point is that a lot of things we think of as good advice can actually be terrible ideas.
Yeah, imagine implementing a thorough change management process in a fast-moving agile company.
Or none.
You're not making friends that way.
This is hard. This is always hard. But you also need to sort of take a few very specific things when you are trying to work with people who are coming from this different world. First one I'd say is it should be empathy, not sympathy. You should be trying to put yourself in their position, understand their motivations, not just to feel sorry for them. You should be looking for motivation, not manipulation. By which I mean, it's easy to try and do everything you need to do to get the thing done. But then if you go away, it doesn't happen. You need to instill that motivation in the people who will be there after you've stopped giving them annoying reports. And speaking of annoying reports, you need to persuade, don't preach. You need to communicate, don't dissertate. It is really easy. I have actually seen a 700-page pen test report in my career.
Did you write it?
Yes. It was early in my career, okay?
And most people don't come to work to be preached at by the security team.
Let alone the person they paid how much to do what? This stuff's hard.
Yep.
So empathy, motivation, and communication.
Try and speak the same language.
Because it really makes a big difference. Context makes the difference.
So who won? Who's next? You decide.
I'm on Twitter. Chloe's apparently on TikTok, though she won't tell me her handle.
You don't need to see that.
All right, first a big round of applause. Now we are in a very unique situation where we have plenty of time for questions, and we have 2 domain experts up here. So, are there any questions in the audience? This is your chance.
Nope, good. Cool.
So to give you a bit of our background, I've got about 10 years in pen testing and professional services consulting, and Chloe's been doing audit and PCI for years.
Stuff and things. Come talk to me about PCI. It's my favorite
People
thing
with
ever.
hands.
Oh, hands. Hold on. I'm coming. Whoa, stop.
Have either of you dabbled in the other side, so to speak, right?
Yeah, totally. So we both work in the TradeMe security team now. We are 2/3 of that team. And then Kate obviously was a pen tester for years, so has definitely seen both sides. I was a consultant, so I also have kind of been that side. You will have noticed this, just a tiny little what's the word? The leaning towards how the blue side is a bit better, but I think we're kind of biased now. We can't really preach against where we're at, you know, so. Yeah.
I've gone from the unique perspective of being a pen tester for many companies, from 2 people to, let's say, a few million people in size internationally, and having gone from being the pen tester to the pen test customer, which makes me a terrifying customer for those poor consultants. But also means I get to see, okay, so this report that as a pen tester looks good is useless to me.
Totally.
Or it looks useless, but people are lapping it up. I don't understand what's happening.
It's funny, I feel like ex-pen testers are the most judging of when you're on the inside, you know? And actually, I think the value of being on both sides mean that whichever side you're on, hopefully you're better.
Yeah, well, and it's hard because you are serving a different set of goals.
Yeah.
Very different. And going from, as I say, assessing companies during short time blocks to working in one of New Zealand's largest, actually the largest domestic website, trying to protect it and our millions of customers at a scale where what I think is a simple solution is comically unworkable. I mean, just use a database lock, right? No, don't. Because everyone wants their auction to finish at exactly 9 p.m. being hit by how many million users? Don't. Like, you have to start doing things to solve the problem you have, not the problem the textbook says you have.
The problem you could have. Yeah.
And in security, that means I tend, in our approach, a lot more towards impact management, to manage the impact of a security event, than probability. I make sure that if something does happen, it fails in a safe enough way, that the teams can have autonomy, because we are never going to have a security team who can be across a huge number of teams. But if we can help them to work safely, have a good block under the car so if it falls it doesn't crush them, that's actually the majority of what is really important to managing risk.
As you can tell, Kate has a lot of good knowledge and she could talk all day. Do we have another question?
She has a point. Next.
This might be a little bit of a rude question, but it seems to me that basically the red teamers actually have a lot easier because, they only have to win once, whereas the other side has to win all the time, sort of thing. So my question is, why would anyone want to be on the defensive side when it seems like it's basically an impossible job, in a certain degree?
Oh, it's a good question, actually.
Do you want to go first, or shall I?
I'll go for it.
The reason I want to be on the defensive side is because I get a sense of ownership, a sense of purpose, and a sense of actually making a difference. I had sent in enough pen test reports where year after year you're reporting the same issues to the same customer that don't get fixed. If I'm on the other side, it's my problem to fix. And that gives me a sense of ownership. Why would you want to be on the blue side? It's a very different set of challenges. Instead of it being hunting the exploit, you're hunting the intrusion or the outcome or the root cause, which has a lot of the same characteristics, but is different.
Yeah, I am very relationship driven, so I found that consulting can be quite transactional. You're kind of in for a bit and then you're out again, and you might see them the next year, and you don't necessarily get to build the same quality relationships with those teams. So there's something so fantastic about helping a team that's very, very anxious about their security problems or their compliance or whatever, and helping them through that, and in the end they feel better about it, Yeah, so that's very rewarding.
So, I mean, as a pen tester, it is an incredible sense of satisfaction to dump a database or get a shell. No question, it is amazing. You spend most of your time banging your head against a wall, not knowing if you're incompetent or they're secure. But on the other side, it can be incredibly satisfying as you're hunting down, figuring out what happened, and you're like, actually, I can start shutting down these phishing sites before they even send their campaign. They're going to be so mad. And you start playing that cat and mouse game in a different way.
I've also heard that when you're on the red team for long enough, you get sick of it and you go to the blue team to be on defense. I do have a question for you. Would you ever go back to professional consulting?
So I don't plan to go back to professional consulting. but it's a good backup plan, and there's a lot of demand for it.
All right, do we have some more questions in the room? Yes, in the very, oh, come on, in the very back.
Go, Tony.
Woo! Oh yeah, I still can't hear him. All right.
Do, 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 do.
I know.
It's just a quickie here. From an operational perspective, you can't manage what you can't see, and from a security perspective, you can't protect and defend what you don't know. Any takers on that?
So I would argue you're right in general, but if you can work out what you care about, you might be able to secure that. You will never secure everything, and to be controversial, you should never secure everything. Some things you need to ignore so that you can protect what matters. So asset management is critical. Knowing what you've got, knowing your attack surface, your crown jewels, all of that, absolutely critical. But sometimes you don't need to know all of the things if you start implementing, say, microsegmentation. If you start bringing in architectural principles that separate off things, you can solve whole swathes of that problem by moving them out of scope. Attackers don't care about scope. That is true. But they care about the scope they're in, and if that's separate to anything else they can touch, the effect is the same. So you can use scope, so what I refer to as impact management, as a security tool, as well as an audit tool. Basically, that makes perfect sense for 10 systems. As soon as you cross maybe 5,000, you can't, at least not with a human brain. I've seen companies with upwards of millions of nodes. There's no way to understand that complexity or to map it.
Awesome. Can I please have a big round of applause for Kate and Chloe in red versus blue.